let's hand right over to Natalie Muric from the Publications Office, who is going to speak on the European Single Procurement Document and on the eProcurement Ontology, both of which are making use of the vocabulary. Natalie, the floor is yours.
Basically, what I just said to myself as I was reading was that EG-GROW has developed the European Single Procurement Document, and just very recently the Publications Office has taken over the maintenance of the ESPD, which is used within procurement procedures. So up until now, there was a general request separate for each procedure, and companies were asked to provide evidence. But now the ESPD, can you change the slide? The buyer sends a request, and it's very structured, and within there's a response, and the companies that are replying to the procedure, they send back the reply.
Sorry, can I interrupt you? We are having several people commenting that you are difficult to understand, including on our side. Can it be that you are now very close to the microphone?
Okay, is this any better?
I don't know. No.
No. Hello, is this any better?
Could be. Keep talking, please.
Okay, so can you change the slide? So as you can see from this diagram, the buyer creates and reuses an ESPD template. My colleague is saying this is not very good, but you cannot hear me very well. Maybe Enrique should take over because there seems to be a problem.
Could be that's okay for both of you?
Yes.
Okay. So you can intervene, Natalie, by saying something wrong. So the contracting authority, the buyer, issues an ESPD request where the criteria for exclusion and selection of the candidates are very well structured. And then the economic operator that is trying to be selected as a candidate that responds these criteria with another document named ESPD response, which contains all the questions in the ESPD request plus all its responses. This document is then processed by the services that are ready for the evaluation of the candidates, and if a candidate is selected, one or more candidates are selected as winners, that can be that a procedure has more than one winner, then only those candidates have to provide the actual the actual evidences, while the rest do not have to. So in this sense, you can see the ESPD as a self-declaration, meaning that the economic operators self-declare that they fulfill all the criteria, and then when they win, if they win, they have then to provide all these evidences for their evaluation. So here you have the URL of the GitHub, of the join up and access to the GitHub where everything about this is available. So in the end, the objective of reduction the burden, the administrative burden, is met by this system. So as I commented, in ESPD we have two main types of criteria: exclusion grounds, we call them, and selection criteria. As you can see, we have a very detailed taxonomy, two detailed taxonomies of how these criteria are for both the exclusion and the selection. So we have many criteria defined in the ESPD using the core criterion and core evidence vocabulary. Then, as I commented, this was originally defined in ISA, and here on the left you have the original model of the core criterion and core evidence vocabulary that later on was included in UPL. So right now we have the possibility of expressing this as UPL 2.2, and in fact ESPD documents are exchanged between systems as UPL. The distribution of all the materials related to the ESPD is accessible on this GitHub also. There's plenty of documentation, examples, etc. Now, one of the things that we discovered in the ESPD is that this core criterion and core evidence vocabulary, something happened. One of the things we discovered there is that the vocabularies, the core vocabularies, these core vocabularies are really very flexible and allow to define very detailed and very complex structures of information relating questions, information requirements, and constraints related to these questions. For instance, here you have an example about how the contracting authorities may require references for works or services to the economic operators. On the left, you have a mock-up of how an ESPD service may look like, and in the center of the mock-up you can see that the contracting authority is specifying for which lots, for which quantities, the currency of the quantity, etc., etc. All these are considered properties of one criterion. In this case, the criterion is please provide references if you want to be selected. On the right, you have an Excel that represents how this is structured in the core criterion and core evidence vocabulary. So all these things on the right, where you see question, etc., are properties of criterion. Then the core criterion and core evidence vocabulary was also used in the eProcurement Ontology. It's another program that is promoted, supported by the ISA², and it's being developed by the Publications Office, where we have a working group that is discussing how things should be modeled there, including how the core criterion and core evidence vocabulary could be used, extended, and even perfected in the core, and not only in the eProcurement domain. So the objective of this ontology is to develop the ontology of the procurement value chain end-to-end, from notification, e-access, submission, evaluation, until post-award, like ordering, invoicing, etc. Right now, the ontology has developed the notification and the access phases, and we are already working on e-submission and the evaluation, which is why this is really very important, because it is at the evaluation that we need really a very rich and complete core criterion and core evidence vocabulary. Now, in the ontology, what has been done is that we took the core criterion and core evidence vocabulary, which is used for the moment only in pre-award, and namely in the e-access, e-submission, and the evaluation phases. And while trying to use it, we identified the possibility of improving it, simplifying this model, and the core model. But on the other hand, we saw that it had to be extended to meet information requirements that are specific of the eProcurement domain. Therefore, what we did was to extend it we have it in a diagram, in a UML diagram, where we have this extension. We name this diagram the procurement criterion. So we have a class that is procurement criterion that extends the core criterion. All the information about the ontology is also available, publicly available on GitHub, but I see that the URL is wrong. This URL is the one of the ESPD. At some point, I think it appears somewhere also. No? Okay, we can provide the right one. Or if you go to JoinUp, you will
put in the chat box.
Thank you. Thank you. Natalie, if you could paste that URL in the chat box for me. Thank you. So here's how we extend in EPO, how we extend the core criterion. This is the class that comes from the core criterion and evidence vocabulary. And what we did was to have a class that is procurement criterion, that extends criterion. And then we have three subclasses of this procurement criterion. One is the exclusion ground, which has types, which refers to this taxonomy we saw before, the selection criteria, and the award criteria. Why the need of this extension? Because some of them have keep special links, properties to create to entities that are exclusive of the procurement, and that is the case of lots. As you can see here, we also extend the property, the core criterion and core evidence property class. We extend it with our own selection criterion property, because selection criteria need to be linked to lots and group of lots. Also, the award criterion needs to be linked to the group of lots and to lots for awarding. One important thing that we did in the EPO, and we are proposing for the core criterion, is that the nesting of criteria and sub-criterion has to be qualified, has to be typified. That is very important, and it's necessary in eProcurement. And hopefully it will be also used in other domains if adopted in the core criterion, which is the need to have a code list to specify that the sub-criteria are of inheritance, for instance. So in the case of the ESPD, this is necessary. This is the way we say that the criterion is comes from the European directive, from national legislation or whatever. But also in the case of award criteria, here, we need at the root criterion, core criterion, we need to specify what we call the dimension, meaning that the parent criterion can represent, or may represent dimension of the awarding, like the quality, the cost, or the price, which we name dimensions internally. And this is important because it's a kind of super criterion that has its own weight, its own threshold, formula, etc., which is also represented in the next slide. This is the idea of the criterion. Yes, go ahead. Sorry?
On the time.
Yes, I'm practically done. Just to show this this thing that once the core criterion and core evidence vocabulary is optimized, as we proposed in EPO, then you can express complexities like the ones we have in our criterion. This one, we can even build small neuronal networks to calculate dimensions of the criteria based on this core criterion. Okay, so that's it. I mean, I think someone has said in the chat that we could speak about the mention that is being forwarding criterion. Okay, it's been explained, I think, and because we're running out of time, I will leave for the questions and suggestions this suggestion by Cecile. Now, I had prepared some questions, but I would prefer you to have your own, because these are written.
Sorry, Enrique, since we are already quite over time, I would suggest that we put the questions to the question and answer session at the end.